Alrighty, everybody, this is Taylor McLean with Century 21 Prosperity and Tina Swanger with Remax Properties and leader of the Peak Success team. And this is the Team TNT Radio Podcast. Let's get into today's episode.
I am so excited. This is a very special episode. And you want to know why? I'll tell you why. Very often we run into modern day heroes, but we don't always recognize them. We don't always see the people who show up every day, who put in the hard, grueling work, who make and change people's lives every day. And I met this lady at the gym, Erica Smith. And this woman is the epitome of strength and beauty and work-life balance. And we're going to get into it. Erica, please introduce yourself.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, you're gonna make me cry, Tina. So my name is Erica Smith. I'm not a native to Colorado. I'm actually born and raised in Corpus Christi, Texas. Then went to college, met my husband at college. We got married. He was in ministry at the time, and we were young. I was still in college, didn't quite finish yet. We got married. Life was hard in the beginning because I always joke around and saying, I met you before you were rich. Not that he's rich, but we had nothing to our names. We got married and we actually had our first pregnancy, and we lost our very first pregnancy right after we got married. And that was really heartbreaking, but that's when I realized, man, this man is in it for the long haul. A couple months went by and I was able to get pregnant again, and we were super excited, except the fact that we were college students living in married housing on campus with no insurance. So literally we were like scrambling for just how to make ends meet, how to make life survivable with a child. I wasn't always a military spouse. We were married a year before he joined the military. And that was never on the radar either. That was something I was not familiar with. I had no background information on. And so he came home and he was like, "Hey, he's like, I think I'm gonna join the military." And at this time it was like 2006, and he had like these awesome sideburns and this like longer, shaggier hair. And I was like, "Oh, he looks like a Backstreet Boy." I was like so in love and smitten. And then he went and shaved it all off, and I started crying because I'm like, "Who are you? Who did I marry?" But he realized that he needed to do this for our family just to find purpose in life. And that's where our journey began. I started finding purpose in my family and in serving others. But just kind of give a caveat to that. We've been married now for 18 years. We've had 6 kids. Ages 7 is my youngest. She's a fun little handful, up to my oldest, who's 16 years old. And they're all like about 18 months to 2 years apart. All blessings, all gifts from God, because I was a little more hindsight to it. Back in 1994, I had my thyroid removed with radiation and was told I would never be able to have children because the radiation
Wow.
would have penetrated my ovaries. But God had other plans. So, what became the impossible with endocrinologists, after endocrinologists, they were always shocked. They're like, "How did you get pregnant?" I'm like, "I thought that was kind of obvious. Like, didn't think I have to tell you how I would get pregnant." What I didn't understand because I was so young is they were just so flabbergasted that I was able to conceive naturally and so easily, one right after another. But yeah, they're all huge blessings. We've been as soon as we got married in 2006, he joined the army in 2007. So we've been on and off in the military for a long time. I don't even do the math on that one. I don't care to do the math because we're still in it. And so I love the fact that it's taken time for me to adjust to life itself. It's been hard, it's been rewarding. 6 kids, over 12 moves, 6 PCS duty stations all over the United States, and we've lived in South Korea for 3 years. It's been an adventure. It's been a lifelong mission of finding who I am, if that makes sense.
That's so
Wow.
huge.
Yeah.
You have to walk us through a day in the life of Erica this week.
This week, a snow day, because that was crazy. We'll do like a normal school day. So as of
Okay.
right now, I'm teaching full time with the 6 kids. All 6 kids are in school. So I wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning every day with or without an alarm. That's how much I've changed this last year. I don't need an alarm anymore. My body just wakes up at 4 o'clock in the morning. So I go to the gym from 5 to 6. Sometimes I make the class, sometimes I'm late to register. So I just hit the weights with my husband, which is kind of scary sometimes. But I manage and I'm strong and I can do it. And then I come home, and this is one of my favorite parts, is I come home somewhat re-energized. I know it sounds crazy. I might be exhausted, depleted of like physical energy, but I come re-energized to pour into my children and to wake them up with a happy note. I want to make sure that my children wake up happy and excited. Some days are harder than others, but I would wake them up, go and kiss them, get them all up, rouse them, talk to them, mess with them, get them ready for school. Then literally 6:50 in the morning, we have a timeline because my son is very, very OCD about being at school on time. 6:50 in the morning, or no, I should backtrack a little. 6:35, he warms up the car for me, so it's not a cold car. Then I drop him off at school at 6:50. Then I come back home about 7 o'clock in the morning, and then I pick up my high school girls, and then I take them and drop them off at their bus stop. Then I come home, it's about 7:15, and I have to be at work at 8 o'clock. So I get a shower, do my hair, get everything ready, get my other two middle school kids who ride with me. I get them ready. And then I show up to school at 8 o'clock in the morning, and my mentality is to serve the children there and to serve the people around me. So I always go in, they're always asking me, they're like, Erica, you're always just smiling and so happy. And I'm like, I know. I mean, we're living. I think that's something to be grateful for today. Definitely a mind shift change that I've had compared to the years past. So then I teach nonstop from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Maybe I get a lunch break. Sometimes I find kids sneaking into my room because they just want somebody who they told me that cares about them, and that makes me never want to turn a child away. So if they show up to my classroom early before school or during lunch, I always give my time to them because I want to make sure they feel valued and wanted. Um, then it gets a little crazy. So I get off at 4 o'clock. This last week I had a soccer game at 4:45, and then my son was wrestling Cheyenne Mountain. So I swung over to Cheyenne Mountain and made it with like 30 seconds of him going on the mat. And so he wrestled. Then I picked him up, brought him home, then went back to the soccer game to pick up my daughter, brought her home. Then I made dinner and met with my other kids and asked them how their day was. Sometimes it's a little chaotic. And then we finally sit down, and as much as we can with all the kids that are home, if they're not, like my oldest daughter's in swimming, so she doesn't get home till 7:30 at night. But with any child that's there, I still make it a point to have dinner around the table. I used to be a stay-at-home mom and a homeschool mom, so I had more time and flexibility on cooking and stuff. Now it's more of a family event. I make all the kids get in with me, help me unload the dishes, load dishes, cook, chop, grate cheese, whatever I need done. They're usually really wanting to be by my side, and that's also how I spend a lot of quality time with them, is by finding those moments wherever they appear. Like I don't have to always plan it. I take whatever's available at the moment. So, and then we have a Bible time at 7:30 o'clock every night. And all the kids, we get around and every single night we read scripture and we pray together as a family. And then my kids go brush their teeth and go to bed about 8 o'clock. And so I have 8:30, 9 o'clock is when I fall asleep because I'm exhausted by then. And usually I have two or three kids who want to snuggle with me. And we're at a point in life where I'm like, yes, if you want to snuggle with mommy, please snuggle with mommy. It's like an eye opener for me in the stage of life I'm at with a junior, almost senior. She's about to leave. And then I start to realize, oh, my family dynamics are about to change significantly and will never be the same again. And so that's a hard pill to swallow, but I'm trying to take every moment, every second I get with my children. Somewhere in between that, my husband pops in and out. He's super supportive. His job is very demanding as a chaplain now. And so sometimes he gets calls and he has to leave on a whim. And it's okay. We've functioned enough this way in our life that I never take it personal. And unfortunately, in the military, your family is first, but sometimes work kind of trumps that. But that's something I never hold against him. It's just the way of our life. So,
Yeah. And kind of going into that a little bit, which I'm really curious about, is It sounds like you and your husband have experienced so much of life together, growing up together and building that life together. And I'm curious through all of these different seasons, how has your relationship grown in that way? Because that's a very special thing. So would you mind talking about kind of how it's grown in that way and what you and your husband do to be successful as a husband and wife together?
Yeah. First of all, it's over everything is commitment. If we're both committed, no matter the circumstance, even if we're frustrated or don't like the situation we're in, that commitment trumps everything else. And it's funny now that you ask that because it's 10 years from now was way different than it is now. And if you asked me what love was 10 years ago, it would have a different definition of what love is now. And that's just because it's come through a lot of hardship and struggles and miscommunication or like having expectations that don't meet your reality. And that's one of my favorite things I love telling people is when your expectations don't meet your reality, it's always going to lead to disappointment. And it's so crucial to communicate, even if it's not what they want to hear. That's the hard grit of marriage is communicating your feelings, your thoughts, your emotions, even when you know it's not what they want to hear. And I think I struggled with that for so long because I'm naturally a people pleaser and I want to make sure everybody feels good and feels safe and wanted and loved. And I was doing that so much at the expense of my own desires. I was always sacrificing myself. And it just came from a childhood of a broken marriage with my dad not being present there, um, and just wanting so hard to please anybody and make them understand that I'm willing to do whatever it was to gain their respect and love. And I think that came from me trying so hard to give it to my dad throughout my childhood and then holding that bitterness and hardness towards him actually is something I've just learned recently that when you have bitterness and hardness towards any family or friend, childhood, recent teens, 20s, 30s, whenever it was, it tends to like burn a hole inside of you and it keeps festering. And it's never really solved until you really truly learn to forgive somebody. And when you can fix those little areas of your life, then I feel like you can be more effective in a marriage because you could be more available instead of trying to fix the past by assuming it's going to fix the present of your current situation. Like taking two different relationships and thinking what might fix one could fix this one now. So I'm going to be have this mentality of I'm going to try to be proactive and it ended up hurting me in the long run, if that makes sense.
I think what's happening in the world right now is everybody is starting to learn that, God, that's so much a better place to be. Instead of fake, instead of wearing the mask, instead of having all the walls up. And I'm seeing how much more beautiful the world is when we can actually be our genuine, authentic self and not and not be a people pleaser and not. So that brings me to that self-care piece. You know, when you're nurturing everybody else, how do you take care of you?
So that was something I struggled with for 17 years, probably longer, just didn't recognize it. I was so into helping others and serving others that it wasn't even like a serving because it made me feel good. It was a serving more to please others. So I served so much that it would drain me mentally. And then I started overthinking, feeling that I wasn't good enough, a lot of negative self speak. And I was great at encouraging others, but I was never great at giving myself that same encouragement. And so self care came when I realized I am worth the energy. I'm worth the same things I tell other people. I am worth all the time and commitment I've given to others. I owe that to myself. And so I started going to counseling and getting some therapeutic help. And he was so gracious and telling me that, Erica, a lot of this stems from what you believe about yourself. So you need to change that, first of all. So he's like, who are you? Who are you in God's eyes and who are you in everybody else's eyes? What do others say about you? And so I was like, well, I people say I'm kind and I'm generous and I'm loving and funny. And then he's like, but do you believe those things? And I'm like, no, because every day I was waking up trying to prove that to other people, but I didn't need to prove it to others. And so he challenged me literally to write these things that I believed about myself and put them on the wall and every day wake up and look at them and say, I am loved, I am wanted, I'm special, I'm one of a kind, I'm genuine, I'm loving, I'm funny. And every day that mantra became easier and easier. And before you know it, like it became second nature. Like I started believing what I was reading, but it took a lot of commitment. And that's where it really started. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to take care of myself. I'm going to put my money where my mouth is, right? I really believe that sometimes change is not just our beliefs, it comes from our behaviors. Because you can believe a lot of things, but you can't change people unless you show them the proof of the pudding. And so I was preaching like, oh, be healthy, blah, blah, blah. Like, it's great. But I didn't feel like I was a good replication of those choices, especially to my children. And that also stemmed from me knowing who I really was behind closed doors. Such a scary, vulnerable place. And so I started making those changes because I wanted to set the example for my children and I wanted to encourage them. And then the snowball effect of it all, I think it started encouraging everybody that I've seen. Even this morning, I went to church and somebody was like, I didn't even recognize you, Erica. And I was like, what? Like, I'm here. It's still me. Hi. And the self-care really just started to become a priority in my life. And I started to learn that the more I took care of myself, the more joy I found in serving others. My tank was overflowing. I felt great. I felt generous. I felt like I was doing it not to impress others, but because I wanted to do it. The way I see serving has taken on a whole new role because it's not about impressing others in the long run. Really, serving is the feeling you get back of knowing that you've done something good for somebody else. And even if it comes from a small word of encouragement, serving them with my words of kindness or words of affirmation, or just like, hey, I was thinking about you, just a small text. Those things go far and long in life than I would say empty praises.
Everything that you're sharing right now, I think, is really going to help a lot of other people who maybe have experienced similar things. Maybe there's another mom who's listening to this and they are so overwhelmed. There's so much going on. And I feel like that is something us women specifically experience is we are always trying to take care of everybody else, but we also have to take care of ourselves. What is some advice that you could give to maybe another mom, another military spouse who has been going through maybe some similar things? What's some advice that you have for her as far as what she can do to start making those little changes over time to where she's beginning to prioritize her health and her mental wellness, things like that?
I was almost to a breaking point. I was actually contemplating taking myself and being like, I think I'm at a place where I need to admit myself because I felt so overwhelmed, so drained. This really came out when my husband was gone to Korea for a year. I had teenagers not making good, some of them, they're making good choices, but they're just being teenagers. And then my kids, I just felt like it felt so overwhelmed. I wasn't even working, but I felt so overwhelmed with life. Like I wasn't good enough for anything. I felt like I had no purpose, even though I was a mom. And I knew that I had purpose. You could tell me all day long, oh, Erica, you have so much purpose in your life. I didn't believe it. And I was just at rock bottom. And that's when I realized, you know what? If I don't make a change now, I don't know when I'll make a change. And the reason I know that is because I came from a family with my parents having addictions in life. And I knew my addiction would be to self-soothe in a way. And I wanted to break that habit.
Yeah.
And that came at a cost for me because getting up and working out at first was was a nightmare.
What was that journey like? Your health journey?
I didn't, I, look, if I didn't have to walk up the stairs, I didn't want to walk up the stairs. Like, I'd make my kids do it. I'm like, hey, go get this for me. Hey, go do this for me. Because I was just so physically unfit, literally physically unfit. And when I say physically unfit, I mean, I don't even know if my husband's gonna watch this, but I was so embarrassed. Like, I don't even think he knows my max weight. I was at 350 something pounds,
Oh,
and I was in tears because that's not who I wanted to be. I didn't feel like it matched who I really was. Like, I didn't feel like my outside matched my inside, right? Nobody told me that. It was just how I felt. And I wanted to be inspirational because I felt like I inspired myself enough. And I was like, if I can do this for myself, I could do this for others. It was difficult. I had 6 kids. My husband was gone. I was alone. It literally started with me loving to dance. And I started taking my daughters to mixed fit and Zumba because I loved to dance. And then we started bonding and we started building a stronger relationship. And I realized, let's put the electronics down, right? And let's spend more physical time together. And then all of a sudden, our relationship started getting stronger and my physicalness started getting stronger. And I mean, with that much weight, I had a lot of weight to lose. I'm at more than 100 pounds right now from that point. But it came from commitment and determination, not for others, but for myself. If I'm committed to a marriage, if I'm committed to being a mom, if I'm committed to be a friend, I owe myself to be committed to myself as well. That does not mean I didn't have setbacks. That doesn't mean I didn't have failures at times. I always feel like a failure is great because you can only go one way from a failure. That's success. Had moments where I gained 5 or 10 pounds after a lot of time spent, and that's a lot of weight. Like, that's very detrimental to your mental, emotional being. But it was more of me just realizing I'm worth not quitting on. If I believe other people are not worth, like, I always told them that, and I believe that others are so valuable. I feel like humans are so valuable, they're not worth to quit on. I owe myself that same respect. And so I think that's really where it stems from is I learned to respect myself and love myself. And then that just kind of blossomed and bloomed and just I was already a great outgoing person, but this has just made me more confident in who I am because now I'm more comfortable in my body and being out there for others. And so it's been really inspirational, especially for my older daughters, where I'm not the skinniest person in the world. I've got lots of curves, but I love myself and they see that. And I think it's great for girls to emulate that kind of spirit on the inside. Like, work for your health, but also love who you are and how God created you. Because I'll tell them and I'll tell everybody time and time again, when I look in the mirror, I tell myself every day, God does not make mistakes. He is the ultimate artist. He knew exactly what he's doing when he was doing it. I am not a mistake. Nothing about me is a mistake. Everything is exactly the way he wanted it to be. And I'm going to try to use everything I have to inspire others and ultimately bring glory to God. So,
ah,
Wow.
that's mic drop. That's mic drop stuff. That makes me want to cry.
Wow. Yeah, I'm very, very inspired by your story, and it's really, really amazing. I mean, you've accomplished so much. You should be really, really proud of yourself. And what are some little habits, little tools, or little resources that you may have
yeah.
tapped into or found or stumbled upon that kind of helped keep you on track and helped motivate you through this whole process?
I think those are great questions. When it comes to like weight loss, especially for me and being 40, oh, I'm there. Is front loading protein, not worrying. I don't calculate anything. I don't keep tabs on my calories or my protein or my carbs or whatever. I tried it all. It didn't work for me. So for me, I would just front load all the protein and then I'd try to fill in if I was still hungry, some vegetables and grains. And before you knew it, I was full. And then I started seeing weight loss. I was satisfied, better skin. I drank more water. I just felt better about myself by watching my diet and what I ate. I didn't crave the things I used to crave. Like, sweets don't look the same to me anymore. I'm back on my mango kick. My kids kind of laugh at me because If I could afford to eat a mango every day, I'd eat a mango every day because I do like my sugar in the form of fruit. Going to the gym every morning, if possible, at least 5 times a week for me is crucial to my journey. And here's the reason why. Like I've done a lot of Bible studies with women, and I love them. I love the ladies to pieces. I've built community and villages within my military communities. Every time you move, you have to learn to find friends again, and it's hard and it's overwhelming. But something happened when I joined the gym is I found a group of ladies who for the first time in my life were not of the same spiritual belief, all of us. And I loved the encouragement and the community I built with them. And seeing their beauty and seeing them grow and be inspired and light up is monumental in my journey. As a matter of fact, it's heartbreaking to think of the day I have to leave here because I've never cried leaving a place, but I will here.
Stop
Yeah.
it. You can't go. So there you
So
go.
just building a village, a community, support, finding those people that will encourage you, even when times are tough, not to give up, surrounding yourself with people who love you just the way you are, where you're at, not where you will be in the future. Just encouraging you on your journey and being your cheerleaders, making those friendships. Another thing for self-care is finding the time to laugh. I love to laugh. I think it's great. I think when times are tough, and sometimes I'll be in my car by myself and just think of something random, it'll make me laugh. And it puts you in a different spirit, a different mood. Finding joy in the small things and the small moments, remembering something funny from your past or just something precious, a memory. Those are things I cling to, but especially finding the joy in the moments because life can deal you cards you don't expect. And it's okay to go through grief and trauma and heartache and pain. But I believe through all that, there's still little hints of joy threaded from top to bottom throughout our lives. And if we focus on the small things that bring us joy, I think when it's weaved within trauma, hurt, and grief, it just makes if our life was a tapestry, it just makes it stronger to have that joy weaved throughout everything.
I've heard something recently. I went to church a week ago and they presented this sermon about the difference between happiness and joy. And what you just said reminded me of it. And I think that's a really beautiful thing because joy, it comes from within, and happiness is like an external kind of thing. It varies. It goes up and down. We all go through things to where we may be happier at certain times, and you know what I mean. But joy, we should always have the joy of the Lord in our hearts. And I think that's a really important thing, especially to go through just the roller coaster of life. I think having that joy within you, if you can just try to maintain that and keep that fire lit inside of you, I think that's really the way that we can all kind of get through life itself.
No, I was gonna say joy
um,
has been foundational for me since childhood. Even before I know who God was, I remember as a child just remember finding those funny moments that I clung to, those moments that made me feel whole and special, and that was joy. Didn't realize it as a kid, but that's foundational, I think, for a strong future and making wise choices is when you can find the joy in those moments.
the other day, I found myself just walking around the house, just cleaning the house, but I was smiling. And I walked by the mirror and I saw myself smiling, and I had to take a double take, like, why are you smiling? And it was exactly that. It was the joy, just the random, solid joy for no reason. It was that gift, that God-given gift, that wholeness, that completeness, that genuine, authentic self that has come as a result of tapping into that beautiful energy and love.
Yeah.
And it is woo, quite a journey. And I want to continue that because you don't get that from anywhere else. It
No.
comes from inside, 100%. And it's getting rid of that negative self-talk that kind of makes room for it.
I think also for me, it wasn't just negative self-talk, but it was also unforgiveness,
Yeah.
which is something I learned. So it took me, gosh, I'm 40, so I'm gonna say 39 years. It took me 30, not really, it took me 30 years to learn what true forgiveness looks like. So that's something I've wrestled with my whole life. I started going to church when I was in my teens, so I have a solid foundation as far as like what the Bible says in forgiveness. But I remember asking time and time again, pastors and counselors, I'm like, how do you forgive somebody? Like, I get it. I get what you're supposed to do, but how do you really let go of something, right? Because I had joy, but I felt like it wasn't at its full potential. I had all these great qualities, but I don't feel like it was at its full potential until I learned what true forgiveness looked like. And so oftentimes we read about, God dying for our sins and forgiving us for what we've done. I'm like, okay, that sounds great. I'm human. I'm not God. At least that was my mentality. Like, how can I forgive my dad? How can I forgive the one who hurt me the most? All
Mhm.
this bitterness and resentment. And it wasn't until I opened, I don't remember what chapter and book it is, but I think it's in like in the New Testament. It's in the New Testament where he says, forgive them 70 times seven. And I was like, okay. For some reason, I was like festering on that verse, started researching it. And as I dug more, I realized God wasn't telling us to keep tabs on how many times we forgave somebody. It's a sacrifice every day to wake up and say, I'm going to forgive you and not let what you've done in the past affect our future together. And when I started doing that, it felt almost like ritual dumb at first, like, I forgive you, Dad, but I'm not going to hold it against you. And then all of a sudden, the conversations became easier and they started to flow and we started to laugh and we started to reconnect. And it was just such a beautiful journey to realize that forgiveness was a sacrifice on my part to not hold anything above their heads. And every day when you wake up and you choose to forgive somebody or that person or that individual, you're sacrificing yourself, yes, but it gets easier and easier. And then all of a sudden, I realized what 70 times 7 meant. Like, you don't keep count, not worth keeping count, but it'll get easier and easier. And with time, before you know it, you're like, and that's what forgiveness feels like. When you're laughing on the phone and you have that last chance to talk to him. And it's just a beautiful thing to just realize and know that created a lot of who I was as a child and as a teen and my way of thinking and maybe my distrust with my spouse and with other men or people in my life. I can't let that affect how I treat others in the future. So, a hard lesson to learn late in life, better sooner than later, but something I'm so grateful for that God's opened my eyes to that when you are able to forgive and release all that bitterness and resentment and hatred, literally that's when the pounds started flying off. So I'm a firm believer that sometimes the weight we carry, the physical weight, is because the physical aspect of our situations.
Our emotions.
And
Yeah.
so it was very empowering to learn on my own without a counselor or pastor or anybody like leading me like how to forgive, was discovering it on my own and willing to be open to listen to that still small voice in my head that sometimes I wasn't sure if it was God or not, but pretty sure it was because it worked. Uh,
Yes.
and just trusting your instinct and your guts and saying, you know what, it's worth a shot. Let's see if this works. I'll forgive you today. I'll forgive you tomorrow. Week goes by, I still forgive you. And then all of a sudden it became almost like a joy to forgive him because I looked forward to speaking to him. And so it was just a beautiful way our relationship evolved at the very last of our time, at the last of his times. He's on his deathbed right now, but these last moments we have together have been so precious because I was able to forgive and move on and hear his laughter, and it's just brought a whole new sense to who I am and who I want to be for my children. It's a great example that I've given my children of what not to do. Like, don't do this to yourself.
You are walking the talk. It's all about how we model for ourselves, for our children, and everyone around us. They have to see the dirty stuff so that they can deal with it themselves.
Yeah.
They have to. They have to experience the wrong in the right way. I was telling my husband, I said, you know, when I grew up, I did not have a good baseline. I didn't have anybody like you, Erica, to model what it's like to be a good parent. So the only thing that I had was television. The Brady Bunch, you know, the Partridge Family, Leave It to Beaver. But at least I had something to model so that I could learn what it should be like. And then I dug deeper. And now it's beautiful. But modeling that for your kids, that's solid gold. That's a gift to them. And the gift of seeing you deal with all of the challenges that you've dealt with.
Yeah, and I've even gotten to the point where I set them down for things that I've done wrong parenting. I knew was wrong. The examples I set, and I literally set them down and I said, I need your forgiveness. I said, because the way I've been raising you guys it's not great. It's not putting you at your fullest potential. So I think when I'm able to recognize the mistakes I've made and own up to them with my children, that's also a great way of modeling self-respect and just commitment to my family, saying, you know what, I've messed up. Like, I just need your forgiveness. And it's created a great dynamic between me and the kids where there's a respect that I'm honestly going to say I don't see often in families.
Yeah.
Um, my kids are very respectful and they understand that I always say I'm a human. I will mess up. I don't know all the answers, even though they joke around. They're like, Mom, you're supposed to know everything. I'm like, don't, sorry. But Google does. And so we'll make light of it. But I try my best. I am by no means a perfect mom. I don't want to be a perfect mom because I need my children to learn what to do and what not to do. Being vulnerable with my children and other women in my community and just letting them see me where I'm at, my struggles, my heartaches, that's been the most fulfilling for me in the long run, even though I was so embarrassed. Nobody ever wants people to know the heartache and trouble they go through. But when you share those small things and they're inspired by it and they cling to you for more information or more wisdom, even though I don't feel like I have a lot of wisdom sometimes, I do have prayers. And that's what I always offer. I'm like, I don't know what to tell you, but I can pray with you. I always try to do my best to pray with them in the spot right then and there because saying, oh, I'll pray for you, I feel like
Done it with me, Erica. You've done it with me.
I feel like it's just so more genuine if you take 2 minutes to sit there and pray with somebody and just let them know you really care about their situation. It can be life-changing for myself and for the other person, because that's where faith comes into action.
Thank you so much for sharing this with us today, Erica. And I just want to make sure that I give you, these last couple of minutes to really share anything else that's on your heart and anything else that you feel is important.
If I have any words of advice for myself when I first started, I would be to build your village with like-minded women and people who will encourage you in your journey where you're at in life right now. Surround yourself with people who will make you laugh and smile and feel great about yourself. And find somebody who you can genuinely talk to, whether it's a therapist or a friend, because bottling things up gets you nowhere in life, just makes you more frustrated. And always know, and I wish somebody would have told me that you're worth it. You are worth everything in this world to fight for and to win for. No matter your circumstance, no matter how dirty or miserable or horrible you feel, maybe you've done something bad and you feel like you can never come back from it, but you can with baby steps if you just believe that you are worth everything in this world, and I believe everybody is. So,
Well, thank you so much again, Erica. We just Wow, this has been amazing, and I'm so, so happy that we have had you on today just to be able to share your testimony and your story, to be able to impact so many other women who are struggling right now, who are searching for resources, who are searching for just a bit of joy to get them through their day. And it's been a real blessing to have you on. And thank you to everybody who listened to this episode, and we'll catch you in the next one.